around those individuals. I was attracted to those individuals. So I found myself wanting to do what they were doing to please them and to be a part of, because I was one of those ones that felt like I wasn't a part of when I was younger. I felt like a nobody. And they were smoking weed and they were drinking. And my grandmother, she was a bootlegger. And what a bootlegger is someone who sells alcohol under the table. And my grandmother was one of those individuals. And I remember there was times when I had to pour the shots of liquor in the Gerbers baby food glass bottles when I was younger. You know, they had them like 50-cent shots, and they had dollar shots, which were in the Maxwell coffee glass containers back then. And I remember I would take the glasses to the kitchen sometime, and I would find myself that I would take my tongue and taste it, but I couldn't stand it. And I still say today, why I think that I never really liked alcohol was because my mother was she was an alcoholic, and she got killed in the process of that. And the stories that I hear about my mother was that when she was younger, she always fought everybody back. She used to beat everybody up and stuff like that. And the story has never been understood how she allowed this man, which was her boyfriend, to kill her, because they said she always was a fighter. So I think that I never really liked alcohol because I know that story about my mother. But I found myself, because those kids, that was one of the things that they were doing. They were smoking weed and they were drinking, like when we was in school and stuff like that. So for me, wanting to be a part of, I found myself drinking. And back then, they used to drink this wine called 2020 Mad Dog.
Ooh.
And yeah, some people call it Orange Jubilee, and some call it 2020 Mad Dog. So I found myself drinking this stuff because I want to be a part of. Now, the weed, I was good with that. But the alcohol, I found myself doing that. And then, you know, I just found myself, it seemed like that they accepted me when I was doing that. So that's how I got accepted. You understand what I'm saying? And then when I moved to New York.
Right.
No. Well, let me back it up.
Ooh.
When I moved to D.C., I found myself wanting to smoke weed back then. I'm smoking weed, but it wasn't like these kids smoke weed today. These kids smoke weed today. They smoke a blunt after blunt, you know. So, but it wasn't like that. In my era, it was joints. It wasn't even blunt. So in D.C., I remember smoking blunts. I didn't know about the hardcore drugs. I remember going to the clubhouse and
now that's the clubhouse in New York, right?
No, the clubhouse in D.C.
Okay.
There was a big clubhouse in D.C. that they always compare it to the Paradise Garage. I remember going there, and they had the punch spike. I didn't know the punch was spiked. All I know is that I felt different, and I didn't understand why and stuff like that. I was like, I don't understand why I feel like this, laughing a lot and all that stuff. And come to find out, probably like months later, I found out that they were spiking the punch with mescaline, mestab. So I said, oh, wow, so I like that.
Wow.
Now, the hardcore drugs, and remember, I'm explaining all this because these are the things that like took my dreams away. Like,
right.
In the midst of me going through what I was going through, you know, I'm doing all this other stuff. So slowly, you know, it started progressing. So when I came to New York, it seemed like all the fab kids, all they did was sniff coke. It seemed like, when I would go in the club, it seemed like the coke was just laid out. I'll never forget going in on Better Days. Better Days had a back room, and then they had the main room, and then they had a smaller back room, and which they played music and stuff in. But all I seen was everybody passing these little bills around, and, you know, it was a lot of coke sniffing. And because I want to be a part of, I'll never forget. I'm not going to say no names, but I'll never forget. One day someone asked me, "Do you do coke?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I remember them passing me that bill and me call myself using my fingernail to put the coke in my nose, and the coke went everywhere but my nose. Now I'm embarrassed because I'm like, "What did they see that? Oh my God!"
Wow.
You know. But that's what I went through. But I was doing it because I wanted to be a part of. It seemed like I said, all the Fab kids did drugs, and I wanted to be a part of that. So here we go with me experimenting. So being that, the more that I be around them, or be around, what I mean by be around now, I mean just the community as a whole. I start watching, and I would look exactly how they would sniff this coke and all this stuff, and I said, I'm going to learn that. And that's what I did. I ended up learning that, and then from there, it ended up to me experimenting in all these other drugs. As far as I went, though, was the angel dust, the crack cocaine, mesh tabs, paper acid, and that's it. I never had any of them other drugs. And I remember being at the balls. I used to be in the ballroom scenes, and I used to hang out with somebody in the ballroom scenes, and they used to have the blunts laced with crack. And at the time, that was okay back then too. You know, it was like a social drug. And I remember smoking the crack cocaine in the weed. But as time went on, I found myself doing crack cocaine. And the time when I was doing all these drugs, it seems like all my problems were gone. So now the dreams that I had, they're shattered. And all I wanted to do was just have a good time. I felt that when I was younger, in my childhood, that I didn't get to enjoy life. I feel like my childhood was taken away from me once my mother got killed, because I was raised in my household with my grandmother when I went through child abuse. So I feel that my dreams were taken away from me, because as I'm doing these drugs, all I'm doing is I'm mourning my mother's death, but I'm also saying to myself, why me? Like, why am I having why did I have all these family problems? And then it had came to a point where I didn't even want to work, because I remember having when I was a teenager in D.C. I remember even having jobs when I was in North Carolina, working in the cucumber field and the tobacco field. In D.C., I remember working at McDonald's and Hardee's. And then as time went on, I got lazy, and I found myself, all I wanted to do was party. Because, like, I remember those days where I would go out. I was finding myself in D.C. going out every night. And every night I would go out, and when I would leave the club, I would be the last one at the club. When they closed the club doors, I was leaving. It wasn't no leaving the club early. It was leaving the club when the club doors closed. Right. And I found myself going to hang out in the community where they would hang out at in D.C. And I would hang out all night, and then I would take my work clothes in my backpack, and I would get dressed in the bathroom at work. So then I got to the point where, you know, I didn't want the job. Forget that. And then in the process, what I was doing was I was jumping from house to house. Meaning I would live at your house. I would live at his house. I would live at this one's house. And that's how I found myself living. So my dreams were slowly fading away as time went by. When I came to New York, it started out as me working. I remember getting my first job in 1989 when I moved here. And that's how I found my way around in New York. That's how I knew the East from the West. How to catch the train was my first job that I had. Because my first job was I was a messenger at PDR Production, in which I used to deliver like videotapes to all the news stations. I remember delivering tapes to talk shows back then. Also, all my children. But then here we go again. As I got more into that club scene, the job was fading out the window. Or whatever the case may be. And then by moving to New York is way faster than North Carolina.
Oh, definitely.
Back then, it was way faster than North Carolina and D.C.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's faster now, but back then, New York was like 3 scales higher. So I found out how to like do certain things. I found myself doing the same thing that I was doing in D.C. I was living here, I was living there, and I was finding people to like support my my cash flow. And then as time went on and as the drugs got heavier, my dreams are steady fading away. And also at this time, I'm learning of all these different ways and methods to get money here in New York. Not the legit way, of course. And I just started living that life. When I actually figured out, when I really didn't know what exactly it was I was going to do when I came to New York. I just came. How I got here. This is how I got here. I came here to go to. I'll never forget this either. This was in my first time coming to New York was in 1988, and if I'm not mistaken, it was June of 1988, and
Wow.
I came here
Yes.
and I came here for a ball. I came here for a ball, and when I came here for a ball, it was Pepper's ball, Pepper LaBeijA. It was her ball. And we drove up here, and I remember saying, when I went to 42nd Street, I said, this is the place for me. When I seen the lights, I was attracted immediately by all the lights. And I said, this is where I want to be. That's what I said. And we went back to North Carolina. I'm sorry. We went back to D.C. And I remember coming up here that same year, 1988, I came up here in August 24th, 1988. I never forget it. And it was the House of Overness Ball at the Mark Ballroom. And I came up here for their ball. And I came up here for their ball, and I also came up here following someone. I had met someone from New York when I was in D.C., and there was a mutual attraction, and of course they fed me love stories. At that age, I didn't know no better. Anything that somebody told me, if you told me in my teenage years that you loved me, I believed it. And that's the dream that I was told, that we would be together and all that stuff. And I came up here and didn't tell them that I was coming up here. I was like, I'm here. Yo, I'm here. Is what I told them. And with the intentions of living with them. And of course it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. But make a long story short, with all of that, my dreams were shattered. Like all of that insanity. That's how my dreams were shattered. But that's how that went.
And it's sad because a lot of the kids in the community, from back then still till today, are still going through these type of situations. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of important, that we talk about this on the show. But you come back from this, right? And you come back stronger, and you start walking, categories at these balls and stuff, and and you're known for Bazaar. That's one of your categories that you know that